Hi, I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. I wanted to talk about the idea of Western culture and its influences because I come across people often who have a sort of a short-sighted view of where our values came from. And there's a number of ways to look at this. I hear a lot of people saying that Western culture is Judeo-Christian in its origin, like all of our values, according to these people, originate from Judaism and from Christianity, from the pages of Scripture, from the Torah, the Old Testament as a whole, and of course the New Testament and the teachings of Christ. And I kind of touched on this in an earlier video. I don't remember what video it was, but how the idea that the behaviors that we categorize as being Christian in origin or Judeo-Christian in origin are as old as humanity itself. So they predate Christianity. So Christianity's been around for a couple thousand years, and Judaism has been around for maybe 3,000 to 5,000 years. I don't know at what point the Jewish people, the Hebrews, began to write down their stories, but surely they were evolving and being communicated before they were written down for probably a very, very long time, hundreds of years, possibly, if not more. But humanity itself is incredibly much older than the earliest writings of the Hebrews. And what the Hebrews had quantified or categorized into written volumes are truths that humanity has been practicing since before we were even a species. Anatomically modern humans have been around for around 200,000 years was a conservative figure I heard recently. But of course, it wasn't like the first anatomically modern humans just appeared one day. We had forefathers, and the hominids that came before anatomically modern humans looked pretty much the same as we do now, but just slight variations, or enough variations to where we would consider it a different species. But again, generational changes. It's not like two monkeys gave birth to a human one day. I mean, that's not how evolution works. And 200,000 years is a long time for humans to accumulate wisdom and truth about their existence, about interpersonal relationships, about communities, about how the world works. And so that's why we see different religions around the world have similar core tenets at their foundation. Things like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, what we call the golden rule nowadays. Jesus didn't invent that. That's been around for probably before the written word, probably before the Neolithic era, probably before when we were still hunters and gatherers living in communities. We probably had those same sentiments, and the idea of caring for the elderly, helping the less fortunate, helping people in your community, all these things that nowadays we say, oh, these are the teachings of Christ that we're practicing. But yeah, they've been part of humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. So it seems that Christianity is sort of the most current iteration, the most current skin suit that we're slapping onto an evolved set of human behaviors. That these are behaviors that help ensure our survival. We didn't just come upon these randomly. We figured out what sorts of behaviors gave us a better chance at survival. But here's something I wanted to talk about is this idea that even though our sense of morality does not originate from Judaism or Christianity, it it is to our disservice to discredit Christianity and Judaism. And I hear a lot of atheists on YouTube here who make this mistake where they take Christianity and the Bible literally, but not seriously. And I think that's to their detriment. I think as atheists, we need to take the Christianity and the Bible and Judaism seriously, but not literally. So we need to flip that around so that when we as atheists take these ancient faiths seriously, we embrace and acknowledge the power that they have to change lives. Because it's easy to point to something, oh, a talking snake in the garden, how cute, that's hilarious, that didn't happen, and then try to make Christians feel bad for believing it, and then Christians in turn go down that rabbit hole I mentioned in the previous episode where they try to rationalize, they waste their time trying to rationalize the snake in the garden that talks, rather than just accept it by faith and express sincere love into the world. Inject the world with love instead of rationality. That's the power of religion, is to love the unloved and to go into the darkness and bring help and affection and life-changing love. It's not the purpose of religion to give a rational answer for how many animals fit in the ark and what the ark was made of, and these kinds of things. I think are, if you're a Christian and you're delving into and you're being sidetracked into those categories of thought, I think you're missing the big picture. And I think atheists will do well to recognize the transformative power that Christianity has, and that probably Islam as well. And certainly Christianity and Judaism. Another thing that I noticed happening among people of faith, and also just well-intentioned people who are they say things like they want to preserve our democracy, but they're short-sighted in the sense that they think democracy is an extension of Judeo-Christian values. But we know historically that the idea of democracy was probably first implemented by the ancient Greeks, 300 to 500 years before Christ, and through the teachings of Socrates and the writings of Plato. And these were stored in, a lot of these writings were stored in Constantinople, and this was during the era of the Dark Ages, when the Catholic Church, ruled all throughout the Western world, and the art was very subdued, the writings were very singly focused, and everything was centered around the power of the church and the suffering of the working class, the people. And it wasn't until during the Crusades, I believe, when the Muslim forces began to advance upon Constantinople, that these ancient writings from the ancient Greeks were transported to Rome, I believe. And for the first time, people started to rediscover these ancient writings and these ancient ideas of democracy and the power of the people. And these were dangerous ideas for they threatened the power of the church, but they eventually got out thanks to the printing press, and they revolutionized all of Europe, and that's where we get the Enlightenment. So our modern idea of the teachings of Christ and our modern idea of Christianity as a whole has been severely tempered by the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. It's interpreted through that lens nowadays, whereas before we experienced the Enlightenment, our interpretation of Christianity was the Catholic Church and how they ran things. And again, we call that era the Dark Ages for a reason. To say that our modern culture is Judeo-Christian in origin is, again, short-sighted in that sense too, in the historical sense, like the more recent history, not just the age of humanity as an animal, as a species. I guess that begs the question, why does it actually matter where our modern sense of morals and virtues comes from, whether it's Judeo-Christian, whether it's ancient Greek, or whether it's as old as humanity itself? I would say it doesn't matter, because the important part is that we have these values now. We value humanity. We value the care of the less fortunate. We go out of our way to help our elders. We allow for what we used to be considered underclasses of people to exist, and we are trying hard to make everybody thrive. I know there are some traditionalists who would rather just see maybe one kind of people dominate, or maybe just their group or their ideologies. But we are, especially in the West, where we're pioneering and moving quickly into the area of just loving all of humanity and accepting and understanding different kinds of humanity, different kinds of lifestyles. And that is to say, as a random aside, I think there is a balance between if your society has an equal balance of strong, hardworking men versus more effeminate, artistic type of men, there is a critical balance that needs to happen for a society to continue in a healthy direction. If you have too many of the strong men, then your society will tend more towards violence and more towards escalating into battle, into wars. And if you have the opposite, too many effeminate men, then that also degrades the society as a whole. A lot of the moral fabric becomes muddied. So there, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I think there needs to be a critical balance. There needs to be a balance between different kinds of men. Women seem to have more latitude with that. Again, to reiterate, it doesn't really matter where our current set of values and sensibilities comes from. What matters is that we have them now, and we're continually refining them. And it seems to be kind of we're walking on a razor edge where we're constantly tipping more towards one side or the other, and maybe with time we'll find more stability with the balance of being too tolerant versus not being nearly tolerant enough. We need to kind of ease into this, and it's not easy. In our country is currently fairly divided between sort of two schools of thought, where we have people who lean towards Marxism, and I have no doubt that they have the best of intentions when promoting Marxism, but I don't believe that Marxism is even close to the right answer for what ails our society. Neither is authoritarian Christianity. So my hope is that level heads prevail, and that we have a fine balance between those who just want to give everything away to help the needy and to raise everybody to the same level, because that's an unrealistic notion. Trying to get everybody to follow the same set of morals that adhere to Christianity alone, because that's also problematic and unrealistic. But we do need to allow space for both. So I know I'm just rambling about stuff, but I think that as far as I'm concerned about, and all we can really control is our own behavior. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to try to find that balance. I want to, as an atheist, I want to promote the idea of taking Judeo-Christianity seriously, but not literally. And my set of morals and values aligns with the Christian ethic for the most part. But I'm also a humanist, and so I believe that humanity is to be preserved and advanced, and Western societies seem to be in the forefront of that effort. I know a lot of other countries in the world who are struggling with poverty. It's difficult to live in the idealistic realm when you're wondering where your next meal is coming from or where clean water can be found. So we have to understand that not everybody has the luxury of philosophical inquiry that more wealthy countries have. But hopefully, with technology and with time, we can sort of remedy this disparity. I believe it's much better, of course, to remedy our differences with science and technology versus war and killing and taking over territories. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll wrap it up with just saying that if you're an atheist like me, then I would try to refrain from mocking Christians and instead try to encourage them. Christians are doing work that few atheists want to do, and that is going in, as I mentioned before, going into the dark places and trying to insert love. They feel the courage and the conviction of their God to push their boundaries, push their comfort level. As an atheist, I don't have that compulsion, and I rarely find myself thinking, oh, I want to go into the inner cities and minister to these aching people, or go talk to the homeless, and hopefully you atheists out there do have that compulsion or that drive to make those kinds of efforts. But being honest about myself, I don't have that. I used to as a Christian, and I kind of miss that. And I think we need to encourage our Christian brothers to continue that and not try to make fun of their faith or point out the ridiculousness of some of their claims, because that's not helping them, it's not helping us, it's not helping the world. So that's my 2 cents. I know there's probably some atheists out there who would wholly disagree with what I'm saying and think possibly that all faiths should be eradicated, because there are problems with all these faiths, of course. But we can't take these faith claims literally, but we do need to take them seriously. So that's my little spiel for today. I appreciate you watching. My name is Charlotte, and you've been watching The Ugly Atheist, and I hope you like this kind of content. If so, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.